I did not want to make another video for my YouTube channel debunking the Khazar conversion theory for Ashkenazi Jews. This theory should have been put to bed a long time ago. We have mountains of genetic evidence, peer-reviewed studies dating back for decades that show no connection for Ashkenazi Jews to the Khazars. But sometimes you need to be, you need a wake-up call. And the wake-up call was a viciously anti-Semitic speech recently made by Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas that was exposed by Memory, who translates speeches from Arabic to English, and exposes the Palestinian Arab leaders for their deep-rooted hatred of Jews in Israel, which has been demonstrated multiple times over the years with Abbas. So yes, I have to make this video, unfortunately, because I do believe that Abbas's remarks, his comments, reflect a widely held view in the Arab world that it denies the biological connection of specifically Ashkenazi Jews to Israel. And they single out Ashkenazi Jews, or they call them us European Jews, because we are the principal drivers of the Zionist movement, which brought the ingathering exiles from all over the world, including Sephardic and Mizrahi and many other Jews from all over the world, to make this modern miracle called the modern state of Israel on our ancient land of the Jewish people, our Jewish homeland. So there's certainly an agenda, an anti-Zionist agenda there, and but the facts are the facts, and I'm here to clarify it for anybody watching who doesn't know. And apparently there are people who don't know, or people who are ignorant, or or people who are just viciously anti-Semitic like Mahmoud Abbas. And so, I'm really glad that Memory exposed this vile anti-Semitic and specifically anti-Ashkenazi filth recently spoken by Abbas. His lies are worthy of Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels. And a lot of people are focusing on the part of his speech where he basically said that Adolf Hitler was against the Jews, not because of their who they were, their religion, excuse me, but because, quote, they were dealing with usury and money. But a lot of the commentators, and there's been some great refutations of all of this from Abbas, some great articles written calling out his anti-Semitism and his Holocaust denial, and his denial of Jewish peoplehood. There hasn't been a lot written about refuting the Khazar part of it, and I'm here to do that. So, he basically said that, Ashkenazi Jews are not Semites, which is, by the way, is an outdated term anyway, because he says they descend from the Khazars. Now, these ignorant and bigoted remarks are why I wrote a book 2.5 years ago. It was published 2.5 years ago about the genetic origins of Ashkenazi Jews, which are mostly similar to Sephardic Jews, in that they are mostly Levantine, Middle Eastern, and Southern European, which reflect historical migrations of Mediterranean Jews during antiquity. The Ashkenazi autosomal DNA and haplogroups are not connected to a semi-nomadic Central Asian Turkic people who in the 7th century founded an independent Khaganate in the Northern Caucasus along the Caspian Sea until the 10th century. Ashkenazi DNA, again, is similar to Sephardic, Italian, Greek, and North African Jews, the Western diaspora, and also to non-Jewish Southern European and Levantine Middle Eastern populations. So bigots like Abbas need to be called out for their lies. Now, I will leave a link. I'm not going to go over the disgusting comments verbatim what that Abbas said. The transcript is on the Memory TV website. but he gets a lot of facts wrong in his comments. They're very ignorant comments. So I'm not even going to justify it by repeating again what he said. I will leave a link to it though if you want to watch the video. What I will do is I'm going to read a chapter that I wrote in my book on the genetics of Ashkenazi Jews, a Mediterranean Middle Eastern people in the European diaspora. And the title of the chapter is What Ashkenazi Jews Are Not. And I'm going to read it to you now. And I say, I write, Ashkenazi Jews are not Khazars, that this misinformation about Ashkenazi ancestry has perpetuated for such a long time, despite mountains of genetic, historical, textual, archaeological, and other evidence, shows the persistence of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories resistant to any new evidence that counters it. The closest, again, I stated this earlier, the closest modern populations to Ashkenazi Jews are Western diaspora Jews, Sephardic Jews, Italkim, or Italian Jews, Romaniotes, Greek, or the Greek Jews, North African Jews, and Syrian Jews. Now, none of these populations are close to the Khazars, who were semi-nomadic Central Asian Turkic people who in the 7th century CE founded an independent Khaganate in the Northern Caucasus along the Caspian Sea that lasted until the 10th century CE. Now let us first look at how genetics completely discredits any Khazar connection to Ashkenazi Jews. The 2013 study titled No Evidence from Genome-Wide Data of a Khazar Origin for the Ashkenazi Jews found no similarity between Ashkenazi Jews and populations of the Caucasus region. The paper states that an analysis, quote, analysis of Ashkenazi Jews, together with a large sample from the region of the Khazar Khaganate, corroborates the earlier results that Ashkenazi Jews derive their ancestry primarily from populations of the Middle East and Europe, and that they possess considerable shared ancestry with other Jewish populations, and that there is no indication of a significant genetic contribution either from within or from the north of the Caucasus region. Now, historical evidence is also lacking that the Khazars even converted to Judaism, as demonstrated by the research of Shaul Stampfer, Professor Emeritus of Soviet and East European Jewry at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. In a research paper published in 2013, titled, Did the Khazars Convert to Judaism? Stampfer cites a lack of any reliable source for the conversion story, and thus concludes that the Khazar conversion to Judaism is a myth, a legend, a fairy tale. The research paper's abstract states that, quote, many of the most reliable contemporary texts that mention Khazars say nothing about their conversion, nor is there any archaeological evidence for it. This leads to the conclusion that such a conversion never took place. Now, finally, there is research from onomastics and linguistics expert Alexander Bader, whose primary areas of academic study include Jewish surnames and the Yiddish language. In a 2017 article published in the Forward titled, Ashkenazi Jews Are Not Khazars, here's the proof. Bader shows that, quote, no direct historiographical data, unquote, connects the Jews of Eastern Europe to the Khazars, as the first references to Jews in large territories of Ukraine, Belarus, and Lithuania were documented in the 16th century, hundreds of years after the Khazarian state existed. Bader also writes that Yiddish rules out any Khazar connection because Yiddish is primarily a Germanic language. Stanford adds that there are also many Yiddish words of Latin, Italian, and French origin, which reflect the migration of Jews. There are no words in Yiddish of Turkic origin. Then there's the issue of Ashkenazi Jewish names. Bader writes that, quote, in the Jewish communities of Eastern Europe over the past 6 centuries, not a single Turkic name can be found in documents listing Jewish names, unquote. Yet how did the Jewish population in Eastern Europe increase so rapidly after the series of migrations from Germanic and Czech lands and other parts of Central Europe between the 11th and 16th centuries? Well, in the next chapter, I dive deeper into the Ashkenazi historical migrations, and I recommend you read the book. But first, I want to show why there's a logical explanation for the growth in the Jewish population of Eastern Europe. A 2019 study by Ariella L. Gladstein and Michael F. Hammer, titled Substructured Population Growth in the Ashkenazi Jews, inferred with approximate Bayesian computation, attributes the increase of Jews in Eastern Europe to, quote, better political and economic and social conditions. The study found no evidence of Europeans or Khazars converting to Judaism as a reason for the Ashkenazi Jewish demographic boom in Eastern Europe. The study also found little European gene flow into the Ashkenazi Jews. The fact is that the Jews living in the kingdom of the Germans, Regnum Teutonicum, faced increasing persecution that led to migrations to the more tolerant lands of the East. The result was a baby boom by these Jews who settled in Eastern Europe. In a paper titled Eres Gezerah, Land of Persecution, Pogroms against the Jews in the Regnum Teutonicum, Kingdom of Germans, from circa 1280 to 1350, Jorg R. Müller writes, the Regnum Teutonicum, contemptuously described by Judah B. Asher as the land of persecution, gradually developed into a land of expulsion, where until the 16th century, the Jews were expelled from almost all the important urban centers and from numerous states in the traditional settlement areas. The increasing migration that ensued eventually led to intensified settlement of German Jews in Italy and Eastern Europe, whereas the Jews remaining in the western area of the empire, moved to mainly rural settlements. Now, that's the chapter. Now, I wrote this book 2.5 years, I published it 2.5 years ago. Since then, there's been 2 new genetic studies that confirm that Ashkenazi Jews do not derive their ancestry from the Khazars, and that Ashkenazi Jews are people of similar to Southern Europeans, Mediterranean populations, and have a significant Middle Eastern component. One of them was called the Norwich study, and it also showed it was Jews in a well in Norwich, England, and the remains were dug up, and the DNA was studied, and it showed population continuity between the 12th century and to modern Ashkenazi Jews. And I'll leave a link to the study. I'm not going to read it to you. I will show you a PCA plot from the study, and it shows it was in Chapelfield, the Chapelfield Jews from the well, the medieval well, who were victims of likely an anti-Semitic incident. And it shows, you can see in the PCA here, that they're close to North African Jews, and also to Turkish Jews who are Sephardic Jews who settled in Turkey from Spain and Portugal. And they're very overlap, and they're very close to modern Ashkenazi Jews as well, and also to Southern European populations, and not that far from Middle Eastern populations, and Cypriots. And so that gives you a good idea. And again, there's genetic continuity between these Jews in the 12th century and to people like myself who are modern Ashkenazi Jews. And the other study that came out pretty recently was a study of Erfurt, Germany. It was a 14th century Jewish Ashkenazi cemetery, and it showed a bit more variation in the cemetery compared to the Erfurt DNA, or excuse me, the Norwich DNA, with some of the people buried there, of the 33 Ashkenazi Jews buried there, with more European admixture, and others with more Middle Eastern admixture. And I'm going to show you a PCA plot from there as well, from that study. And you can see that even the most European shifted people in that cemetery were very close to Southern European populations, and the more Middle Eastern shifted people in that cemetery were very close to just like the Norwich Jews, to North African Jews, to Turkish Jews, who again are Sephardic Jews, and they're both overlap a lot with modern Ashkenazi Jews, showing the genetic continuity. And you can see that they're also close to Sicilians, Maltese, Greeks, not too far from Cypriots, and not that far from Lebanese, and other Middle Eastern Jewish populations. So I'll leave a link to the Erfurt study as well. And so lastly, just to wrap it up here, I want to give just my personal DNA take from an excellent website called Illustrative DNA. And I'm going to show you just some of the results. For example, this is the periodical ancient ancestry breakdown for myself. And you can see European farmer, 36.4%, followed by Canaanite, 34.2%. The Canaanites were the people that were mentioned many times in the Bible, who archaeologists such as Israel Finkelstein and others posit that the Israelites arose out of the Canaanite culture, and that there's a genetic linkage between the Canaanites and the Israelites. So that Canaanite is very important. And then you can see that's the Bronze Age. You can see the Iron Age. You can see I get 36.4% Phoenician. Well, the Phoenicians were from Lebanon, and that's what the Greeks called the Canaanites who lived in Lebanon. They called them Phoenicians because of the phonica, the purple dye that they made. And you can see Greek. 31.6%. Germanic, Balto-Slavic, Berber. You can see the migration period here. You can see Roman Italy, 42.8%. And Roman Levant, 33.4%. And Slavic, Germanic, Roman North Africa. The Middle Ages, 82.2% European Jew, which is a mixture of the two groups from those two recent genetic studies, the Erfurt Jews and the Norwich Jews. And then you can see my genetically closest ancient populations. You can see my South Italian from the Longaborg period, 650 to 800 CE. This is the modern populations close to Italian Campania, Basilicata, Sicilian West, Italian Apulia, Abruzzo, Calabria, Ashkenazi Jew, Belarus, Ashkenazi Jew, Russia, Italian Molise, Sicilian East. None of these populations are anywhere near the Khazars. These are Southern Italians and Sicilians that I'm close to. So, and also you see Imperial Roman, Central Italian, Late Antiquity, Imperial Roman. The ancient populations mixed mode. You can see from the Bronze Age period, the two-way, 59.2% Amorite. That the closest modern population is Lebanese Christian. The Lebanese Christian, Greek Orthodox, Lebanese Christian Maronite, Samaritan, Druze, Israel, Druze, Lebanon, Palestinian Christian, Iraqi Jew, Karaite Jew, Egypt, Lebanese Christian Melkite, Kurdistani Jew, and 40.8% Unities culture, which is related to it's earlier bell beaker culture, corded ware culture, very, very Northern European. And you can see that the next fit is 55.7% Canaanite, Megiddo. That's the number. The closest population is Samaritan, who are the closest modern proximate population to the ancient Israelites. From the Bronze Age, the Canaanites of Megiddo. And you can see in the Iron Age, 48.6 to two-way fit is 48 at 2.179 is 48.6% Israelite Megiddo. Well, okay, the Canaanites of Megiddo, guess who they turned into? The Israelites of Megiddo. Closest is Samaritan. The Lebanese Christian populations, Druze, Karaite Jews, Iraqi Jews, etc. And then 51.4% continental Celt, close to French, Indo-European people, French population, Swiss, Belgian, those kinds of populations. And from the Roman age, you can see my two-way. I get 61.6% Roman Levantine Cornet et Daer, which is from modern Lebanon. You can see the Lebanese Christian populations are close to this. And then 38.4% Iranian Scandinavia. And then if you look at the modern populations mixed mode, you can see the Ashkenazi, 90.7% Ashkenazi Jew Poland, 9.3% Germany Saxony, And then you can see in the three-way that fit that I get 75.7% Sephardic Jew, 23.1% German Saxony, 1.2 Witchy. So, you know, you could model like Ashkenazi Jews as being like 75% or more similar to Sephardic Jews. And then lastly, my genetically closest modern populations. You can see how tightly fit Ashkenazi Jews are. Ukraine, Poland, Russia, Lithuania, Belarus. But then right after that, Sicilian East, Maltese, Sicilian West, Italian Abruzzo, Italian Apulia, Italian Basilicata, Italian Campania. Then Ashkenazi Jew Germany, Cretan Turk, Ashkenazi Jew France, etc., etc., etc. And then you get down to Italian Jew, Sephardic Jew, Dodecanese Greek, these kinds of populations. So that's just a little bit of my personal samples, but you know, again, I did not want to make this video. But along comes somebody like a bigot, an anti-Semitic bigot, like Mahmoud Abbas, to remind you that people still believe this nonsense that the Ashkenazi Jews descend from Khazars. And it's absolute nonsense. And it should not be taken seriously. Do the research, refute it, educate yourself, know who you are if you're Ashkenazi. You have nothing to do with these people. You partially have your ancestry right here in the soil, in the land of Israel. And you also experience a diaspora in Europe, in the Mediterranean, and then up to Central Europe and Eastern Europe. And that reflects in our DNA too. But this is where we're from. You can tell Abbas that too. Thanks for watching.